we're done, and now the quick start, I say, works much better for us. And then on the geography, so we've asked, every 3 weeks, they do some upgrades to the system. So if you remember on the geography, when you hit geography, you select 2010, and then this overlay comes over. Now people, it took us a while to say, what's this? Well, it was an overlay too, so you could select geography, but nowhere did it say close it. We kept saying, where is the data? You've got to close that screen to see the data behind it. You know, so those kind of little things that if you tell the user, you know, close box, or whatever it is, you know, or the box automatically closes, or something happened. So they're upgrading us. So it's becoming a lot friendlier. We couldn't find census tracts before.
Yeah.
You know, it was a difficult process, so. I say that by the time that the summer rolls around and we have summer file ones and everything, it's going to be much more user-friendly. Because you actually can go and navigate through different things. I just prefer to limit my data set because it limits the number of tables. Yeah. You know, if you hit United States, it brings up 414,000 tables. Yeah. I don't want to raise 414,000 tables. And the other thing is that if there's a table that you use frequently, just remember its number. So then you can plug in the number, and then that table will come up for you.
I like the bookmark.
Or bookmark.
Yeah,
bookmark. Yeah.
I already bookmark.
Right. So then you can go there, straight there, all the time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. So here's your map.
Okay, so that's the whole
That's the whole
town.
That's the whole town.
Within that town, can I get are there census tracts within that?
Yeah, you know what? Let me just see. So what you can do with a map is another. I'm trying to think of where am I going to be able to do this. We have a mapping feature that you change the boundaries and so to identify the census tract and that kind of stuff, and then you can see it. This is a static map, so it's not going to let me do that. So it's telling me. You know, these are the boundaries that it has identified. But in that Montague, so these must either be, do you know the names of those CDPs?
Well, Turner's Falls is what I'm looking for,
okay.
Which is within that town.
Okay, so I'm going to go to place, because if it's a CDP, it's going to be there.
What's a CDP?
A census designated place?
Okay.
So that's often like a village within a town or something.
That's what these are, villages, yeah.
And sometimes, they show up as CDPs if they've been designated. Turner's Falls, you say? Goes to CDP. So you could go into a place.
Go to a place.
Right, and select all of those. So here's all of the information for that CDP. So that's an area within the town of Montague for which there is specific data collected.
It's going to have all the same data that you find anywhere else?
Oh yeah, it'll have the same data.
So household information,
all of that.
racial.
Right, all of that. This one is just that we're looking at the demographic profile. So.
Now, can you ask for tables that compare that with the whole town? Like, can you get that specific? Like
Sure. So what you do is you would get a table, one table for the town, and then you want the same table for that CDP, and then you can do your
like state and U.S. You can get all those data side by side.
Right. Okay. So then on the place, you'd probably be able to find the other places as well, because we thought there were CDPs. Anybody else has some data requests? Things that you okay?
And this is where I can find households with, say, if I'm not a household with children between 14 and 18 or whatever, but like high school age is what I'm looking
You're not going to find that in a profile, because the profile is already predetermined data sets. But if you went into detail tables, is where you're going to get all of that detail that you're looking for.
So I can ask specifically for households.
Right, so you would not choose a data profile, because that, unless the data profile has that, but it's not gonna have that.
Is there any data that's about like high school age children?
Actually, the breakdown is 15 to 19,
Yeah.
so there are some buckets.
So I can use 15 to 19.
So it's good to know the distinction that on the county subdivision, you're not gonna get that detail of census designated places. You're only gonna get that in, on the place. Okay? So if you're looking for your CDPs, for those little
Yeah.
areas,
Yeah.
you've gotta look at the place.
Gotta start from the place.
In the geography, what you select is place.
But I won't get that detailed information you're saying?
Oh, yeah, no, you will, but you're not gonna get it if you went to county subdivision, because they're not gonna show up there. That's only cities and
Yeah.
towns.
Just start with the place. and
Right.
Then I can get detailed information from.
Detailed information for those small areas within Montague.
Where do you go from the place to the details?
Okay, so you have place.
Yeah.
For now, I'm just gonna choose this first one. I'm gonna add it. So you would add Turner's Falls, and all of the others, because they're probably in there. And this is where you start selecting.
Okay.
Okay? So you can go by subject, by keyword, and start looking at what it is that you want. If you did it by keyword, you know, by subject is predetermined. Keyword, let's do.
So are all the tables existing, or can you ask it to show you things in a certain way?
You've got to select it. Unless you knew what the table number was, you'd be able, but otherwise you'd have to select the table.
But you can't ask it to create a specific table?
Oh, no.
Okay, so I'll
You
take
can,
it
you can do that if you download
load
it,
it
and then you create your own
manipulate it.
table.
And I end up doing that a lot in cases where, you
Right,
know,
you're trying to look at a particular mix of things.
yeah, or in some cases where the predetermined table has things broken down
Right.
more than I actually need, so I'll download the whole table and then combine male and female or
Right.
age ranges or things like that.
Yeah, or eliminate pieces you don't
Yeah,
want.
exactly.
And you download it into Excel usually, or,
Yeah. That, I mean, that's where we normally download it, and then people can just get the data. Good. Any other? Any data you're interested in looking at?
Poverty statistics.
Okay,
And I
for-
usually try to compare them with Springfield and then Hampden County and then the overall Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
So you want poverty for, so here I'm gonna go back to geography. And you want it for,
The
the
city,
state?
Springfield, the state, and Hampden County.
Okay, so we want the state. You'd add it down here. I'm gonna take out add, remove that. I go back up to my selection. And you said the county? So then I highlight county. It's gonna ask me what state. Then it's gonna give me all of the counties in the state. So then you want Hampton. I'm gonna add it here. And then I'm gonna go back up here. And you want it for Springfield. Right? So I'm gonna highlight county subdivision. Massachusetts, Camden. And it's gonna give me all the county subdivisions, because all of them have 20,000, you know, so it includes everybody. If I were in the 1 year data, it'd only give me Springfield. Right? So we'll add that. And so now we have the 3 geographies. And the system allows you to choose 50 geographies at one time. Who wants to do 50 geographies at one time? 50 geographies, and you can choose up to 500 pieces of data. Okay, and you want 500? Search, so you can pull up all the tables on poverty. And so you get to see that there's lots of choices. So let's look at poverty status in the past 12 months by sex by age. I'm just going to choose that one, so you can get to see. See the three across, and then all the data down. Okay. You could do the same thing for all of your towns if you were looking, you know.
They'll give you percentage of the population.
No,
You
no. If you drop it into an Excel spreadsheet, then you can do a percentage on it. So that's how you look at multiple geographies across. Yeah. So you can compare them. And then you look at the margin of error. So you see one of them has an 11,000 margin of error. You know. So you figure out, do I want to use this or do I not want to use this?
What's considered like an okay margin of error?
It depends on the piece of data, depends on, you know, the geography, and then it depends on, you know, how comfortable the user is. Yes.
The new American Fact Finder, I presume there's a way to, obviously this data is not available in it yet,
Right.
but I presume there's a way also to create a table with multiple geographies.
Sure, you could use a geographic comparison table with multiple geographies, but that's only for one data set.
Can you do a detailed table for multiple geographies in the new American Fact Finder?
Yeah, when we have, yeah, because you can do the detailed tables for multiple geographies here.
How do you, is there a particular way you need to select? I'm just wondering if you could demonstrate that just a second.
I can't do it on the new one because we don't have it yet. Once it's up there, then I can show you. Because the only thing that's up there is the redistricting data, so it's not gonna search for anything else. When the summary file 1 is up there, then you have much more options.
I see.
Right. So, you know, so what I'll do is I'll give you my number with, in summary files, should start coming out. How they're gonna be released, they're gonna be 13 states a week. I don't know which states, you know, we usually know about 4 or 5 days in advance, but they're gonna be released, you know, 13 states a week.
You couldn't put like redistricting data in the new system for multiple, like cities, for example. You couldn't do that.
Yes, you can do that.
Like you could use Springfield or Hartford, for example.
Exactly.
How do you? Yeah.
And then it would be,
So that's what I'm curious about.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, I realize there's not a lot of data out there yet.
right, so we wanted to compare.
While you're going over there, can I just comment on the margin of
Please.
error piece?
Oh, yes, please.
I think that's definitely something important to keep in mind, especially with the new American Community Survey data, and the 5-year estimates that are getting down to the small geographies, which are a lot of our cities and towns, and especially when you get to like Turner's Falls, you know, it's a really small geography, and they're estimating based on a sample. And for some of those small geographies, there's a really big margin of error. And I think when you know, in terms of what's acceptable, Anna Maria is right. You know, you have to look at what your situation is and what's acceptable to you. But when you look at plus or minus, you know, some of the things that I've looked at for a small city or town, maybe the median family income might be a range that is from, say, 45,000 to 100,000, but the number that comes up is something right in the middle there, you know, like 75,000 or whatever. And so if we put down the median income is 75,000, but really it could be 40,000 or it could be 100,000, that doesn't really mean anything to us. And we want to keep That's something really important to look at. And it's hard to know what to do. Like for my position, we publish these numbers, you know, to show trends and things like that. And what we decided to do is publish the numbers that are there because that's what we have and we don't have anything better to work with. But we always make sure to note that there are margins of error that go along with all of those. And in a specific situation where you're trying to make decisions based on that data, you really want to look closely at that. You know, for grant applications, this is the data we have, so this is the data we have to use. And I think that probably government agencies and foundations are probably going to become more and more used to paying attention to the fact that those margins of error do exist. But in the meantime, for those kind of applications, the data the number that's given is what we have to use. But you know, in some cases, you might feel like it doesn't actually really reflect your community. If you're really familiar with a small village within your community and you think, actually, I think it's really closer to this 40,000, not this 70,000, then you might add in a sentence that talks about that margin of error and says, based on our familiarity with our community, we think it's closer to the lower end of this margin of error.
Yes, and I was going to that, yes.
How do you go about, I'm not sure if it's a question for this session or maybe the following one, but how do you go about correcting something that you, for instance, the last census, we had a very poor neighborhood, we know it was a very poor neighborhood, looking at the block data, and we had something like 8 millionaires in there, and 4 people that reported like they had 12-room single-family houses. They don't exist, and we know that. We can show it in the assessor records. So unless you had like a drug dealer that was really proud and decided, you know, that he wanted to be candid on the census, it just didn't make any sense. But we never, and it really screws up community development's data set, but we were never able to fix that. And I wonder how one goes about doing that.
So by fixing that, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, providing the information to demonstrate that this is just physically it can't be true, because we have the data set from, say, the assessors that shows within this area exactly what how the buildings are structured. There's no single-family houses, they're all apartments, you know, or something to that effect. Is that something you can?
That's something that the municipality would have to say. For instance, we have no single households, you know, and they're reflected here, so can you tell us where they're at? You know, so that's something that you can address. If the Bureau can point to where the single, you know, households were located, you know, then that's a conversation between the Bureau. But I would recommend, and we'll go on there and look at the CQR program. Okay. So you wanted to see multiple geographies with redistricting data?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I did was I went to the American Track Hunter 2. I limited my data set to the 2010 redistricting data, so I'm looking at, if you look at this geography, there's what, 287,000 tables? We don't want to look at that. Yeah. So when we get to the geography, what I'm going to recommend is 2 things. That in these bottom boxes here, that you have all geographies, right, and that you show all summary levels. So we're going to highlight all summary levels. We choose that radio. The default is the first one, to show only the most requested. So all of a sudden I see a lot more. And so you highlighted the summary level, not the geographic type, the summary level. And what you want is a county subdivision. And then the vision will start thinking. Similar to the way it put before, so county subdivision within a state. And so you want it within Massachusetts, right?
Sure.
And then within a county. Here's a starting to narrow down.
Pardon?
It's starting to narrow down, so it's county subdivisions, it was the nation, and then we said within Massachusetts, and now within a county. And we will add the And so, if you notice, the previous screen had all county subdivisions, you could have chosen all. But when you go in within a county, it then gives you the option of single ones. Okay. So you can now scroll down, and we should find Springfield. We'll check it, and then we're gonna add it. And it should show up. So she's thinking now, and it should show up in your selections box. Okay? So now you have 2010 data for Springfield, now you want it for Hartford, right? So I'm gonna clear all my filters in this geography overlay. That's still up there, but that's the main one. This is just selecting. Again, I'm gonna close out. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna open up summary level. And we'll go through the same process to select Hartford in a different state, totally different county.
The idea then, it sounds like the idea is to get it into the selection.
Absolutely.
That's
If
the
it's not
idea.
up here, you're not gonna get the data for it. If it's in here, all it's doing is selecting it, and then you eventually want to put that.
So you could also go back to the original search and get like Springfield City, Massachusetts, and Hartford City, Connecticut, and get those in there. And
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
that would be another way
Right.
to do it.
What I'm trying to do now is get Hartford in there, if I can open up summary levels.
That's like the shopping cart you talked about first, like getting all those.
Right, this is like the shopping cart at the bottom in the old
You always-
system, it's up here
In
on
the
the
new
other.
system.
Right.
Call something.
So much time to- what time is it? West Coast folks are coming on. So we're gonna select county subdivision. And now it's gonna ask us where, what state. It's not gonna ask us. See, this is where the intuition doesn't come in. The other system, if you notice, it asked us, the state, the county, that kind of stuff, so it prompted us. This one doesn't. This one just gives you this, and then you've gotta figure it out. So we want a county subdivision within a state. So you notice that the geography filters, we've got county subdivision. So this is how it's gonna narrow. When we get to what we want, we're gonna hit add, and it's gonna show up.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, so within a state. County subdivision. Within state. And so we should have an everything. And so I don't choose this one here, it says all county subdivision in Connecticut, it's gonna give me all of them, and I don't want to do that, right? So now we have the state up here, and now within a county. And we're gonna do the different. And again, it's gonna give me all county subdivisions with Hartford. Look at all county subdivisions with Hartford, which we don't want to do. But this one gives me specifically that I can actually find Hartford. So I click on Hartford. And then I'm gonna hit add. And now it should show up in this box.
Is there any reason to use the old versus the new, is it just the formatting that's different?
No, the reason that you use the older system is because that's where you're gonna find American Community Survey data. The new data is the 2010 data. So all three of your selections are up there. So now I can clear all the filters here. And I can close this box. So you always gotta remember to close that, otherwise you have. So now here are the 7 tables or the 6 tables, there are 7 tables. And we're going to choose, we wanted to do, let's do a quick table. And view it. So this is the table for Hartford. only view, it's very different than the other one that gave you the geography side by side,
Right.
you could use it, this one does.
Can you download?
Yes,
You
you
can
can.
download both together into
Yeah.
Excel?
Yeah, you could download them and then start looking at them and then figure out which one it is. But that's how you do multiple geography. You gotta keep going back in and making sure it shows up in your selection box. It's
Okay.
not there, you're not gonna have the geography.
It sounds like the idea with this new system is to get everything into that selections box that
Yeah,
you want,
right.
short of the tables.
Right.
That's, okay.
So you first, so if you're going into geography, you select one of the geography first, and then you look at your tables. What I do is I limit the tables depending on what data I want. So I just go in and I limit my data set. So, 2010, some we follow one or whatever. So it's only gonna limit, it's only gonna give me the options of the tables that are available for that data set, and then I do geography. Okay?
Thank you so
Good,
much.
not a problem, not a problem at all. Any other requests? You've got it pretty handled over there? Yeah. Well, because you know, if you have any like kinks in the system, and if you do, by all means, I just want to